Shalom, Holy Blossom. Across North America, this Shabbat will be observed as Refugee Shabbat. It was organized many months ago by JIAS, the Jewish Immigrant Aid Society here in Canada, and by HIAS in the US. When it was first conceived, it was impossible to anticipate just how urgent the conversation would be for this Shabbat when more than 1 million people have had to flee their homes in Ukraine. We here in Toronto are preparing ourselves, and we at Holy Blossom Temple are preparing for refugee relief. We anticipate there will be many Jewish newcomers to our city, and we have to be ready to welcome them, to help them to find their way. In the meantime, we're told that the most helpful thing is to send funds, not to go and be there on the ground, but rather to send funds. In time, I do hope there will be an opportunity for a solidarity mission, but right now, if you can make a donation to the World Union for Progressive Judaism, which has established a specific fund for refugee relief to support our Reform congregations, our sister congregations in Ukraine and the surrounding countries, that would be most appreciated. You can find the link at the top of our website. Today, I'd like to speak with you about what I've learned in my current role as the president of the Toronto Board of Rabbis. The TBR is an umbrella organization for Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, and a few Orthodox rabbis from the Greater Toronto area. And I've learned that this year, a primary function of the Toronto Board of Rabbis is to be a support for rabbis. Throughout the pandemic, 2 years now, rabbis have been serving on the front lines, being with families who are vulnerable, who are mourning, even in times when we weren't sure what the protocol should be, when there were no vaccines, rabbis were there to provide spiritual and pastoral care for the Jewish community across the city. And so the rabbis who have been absorbing all of that emotion and carrying that extra burden do need support now. And so the Toronto Board of Rabbis has been able to provide that network of supports. We've also provided practical resources for one another, troubleshooting and brainstorming about how to run online services, about how to Zoom Torah study and so on, how to run youth education online. We've made community statements over these 2 years. I remember that first Pesach as it was approaching, and congregants didn't believe us when we said, this is serious and you need not to gather around your Seder tables. And so the Toronto Board of Rabbis put out a very clear directive. Your rabbis are telling you, do not gather for Seder. This is dangerous and you need to protect one another. We put out a similar statement about Shiva and making sure that people were keeping safe distances and staying safe. We've also played an important role in communicating and coordinating with the Jewish funeral homes in town and with the Jewish cemeteries. And they've been great partners to the rabbis. And then recently, when there was the attack on our sister congregation in Colleyville, I insisted that we have training for rabbis and other synagogue professionals and leaders. And the UJA responded immediately and put together a whole program, a series of training sessions for rabbis and others, so that we would feel better equipped to keep our congregations secure. Also recently, when Nazi flags were flying on Parliament Hill during the so-called Freedom Convoy, the Toronto Board of Rabbis put out an ad in the newspaper to remind Torontonians of every stripe that more than 1 million Canadians served in World War II to fight Nazi tyranny. And so this symbol of Jew hatred is an offense and an affront to all Canadians everywhere. And now the Toronto Board of Rabbis is preparing to offer what I like to call our first annual study Kala. That is on Sunday, March 20th. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be 7 simultaneous study sessions offered by pairs. So 14 rabbis are teaching, including some of our Holy Blossom rabbis. And it's a range of topics, and it is an offering to showcase how rabbis are serving our community in many different ways, as hospital chaplains, as educators, as congregational leaders, and in Jewish communal organizations as well. The celebration is the first day of spring, March 20th. And the reason for our gathering is because that is exactly 2 years since we went into lockdown for the first time, if you can believe it. I can hardly believe it. And so our city's rabbis are taking time to reflect together with the Jewish community of Toronto on what we have learned, what we have lost, how we have grown, and how we will emerge from this pandemic and plan for the future of our Jewish community. The message I'd like to leave with you on this sunny weekend is that we are once again opening our doors and slowly but surely returning to Jewish communal life here at Holy Blossom Temple. Our schools are back. The Early Childhood Center never left, but our religious school and our senior school, which since Omicron has been back on Zoom, now is back in person, and our kids and our teachers and our parents are thrilled. It is so good to be back together again. Our offices are opening again. I'm here in my office, as you can see, and it makes the work we do so much more streamlined, so much more efficient to coordinate and communicate just down the hall or around the bend instead of that disjointed way of working together over Zoom. Our morning minyan is back throughout the week. Our professional choir is back as of last Shabbat. Our temple singers are coming back in just a week or two. And our multi-access adult education program is back, starting with Torah study tomorrow morning. I welcome you to join me in the boardroom. There'll be distancing and masks, and of course, everyone vaccinated, and we'll still be online as well. The power of the bagel. Soon we are bringing back shared food for those who choose it, and that's really important to know. Weekday mornings after the morning minyan, there will be an opportunity for those who choose to go to the lower level and share a bagel and coffee together. And March 19th will be our first congregational Shabbat morning Kiddush lunch in 2 years. I can't believe it. So again, it's only for those who choose to go to the lower level. Otherwise, everyone else is welcome to stay for mask and mingling in the atrium, in our Schwartz-Reisman atrium. Congregational Shabbat dinners are coming back. April 29th is a special Shabbat that Cantor Rosen has arranged with the scholar in residence. So that will be our first Shabbat dinner. If you are comfortable and ready to join with community, please look for the details on our website and you can register. I am over the moon to announce that our Holy Grounds Cafe now has plans for a soft launch the day after Pesach, when we will be really hungry for good pastry to go with our really good coffee. So you'll be hearing more about that. Keep your eyes open for a very special social enterprise, which Holy Blossom Temple has been dreaming of for a long time now. So while many things are new, and many things are new again, some things will stay because we have learned a lot during the pandemic about other ways that we can successfully gather. So I want to reassure you that we are furthering our investment in technology and hardware and software and in staff so that we can continue to provide multi-access for prayer, multi-access for learning. We are moving cautiously with the direction of our COVID cabinet and our medical advisors. We are moving forward with respect and in recognition of the whole range and the diversity of views and practices and needs of our congregation. And so we'll be able to provide options that will work for everyone. We have the benefit of space, and we have the benefit of beautiful space. So there will be something for everyone. Allow me to conclude with a very well-known passage, chapter 3 of Kohelet, of the book of Ecclesiastes. We hear these words most often at funerals, which is a time when the voice of Kohelet teaches us to be accepting of loss, to accept the passage of time with grace. But on this occasion today, I read these words with a different tone, because Kohelet's wisdom is equally about embracing times for rebuilding, embracing times for mending, and for growing together. Not only to accept loss, but to accept opportunities. L'chol zman le'et kol chefetz tachat hashamayim, a season for everything. There is a time and an experience for everything under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what has been planted. A time to be born. This Sunday will be our first baby naming back at Holy Blossom Temple after 2 years. A time to die. I want to share with you also that graveside services have been meaningful, but also physically uneasy for many families. And so soon our funerals can take place once again in the chapels of the Jewish funeral homes and in our beloved sanctuary here at Holy Blossom Temple. Ecclesiastes continues, a time for harm and a time for healing, a time for closing down and a time for building up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance. Purim is coming. We have just begun Chodesh Tov. We have just begun Adar Bet, the second month of Adar, which brings Purim. And so, yes, there will be a time for laughter again in our halls. And yes, there will be a time for dancing. And a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time to refrain from embracing. We have refrained from embracing for too long. And soon we will be welcoming 2 new incoming rabbis who are eager for the embrace of our congregation. I look forward to introducing you to Rabbi Sam Kay and his family, to Rabbi-to-be Eliza McCarroll. They'll be here on the Shabbat of April 10th, I think it is, and they'll have a special aliyah to the Torah, and the Kiddush lunch will be in their honor. So please do join us. And finally, Ecclesiastes says, a time to seek and a time to lose. So much has been lost. What are we seeking now? A time to keep and a time to discard. We will keep the online Seder, the congregational Seder, which was so successful the last 2 years, including a visit from Mayor Tory. And so we'll be keeping a number of the innovations that have come along during the pandemic, and some things we will let go as well. And finally, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to seek, a time to be silent, and a time to speak. It has been too quiet at Holy Blossom. We haven't heard your voices. We haven't heard you singing in the sanctuary. We need your voices. We need you to be heard and we need you to be seen. And so this is a time not to be silent anymore behind the screens, but to come forward, to emerge, and to return. I encourage you, when you are comfortable and ready, come reclaim your place here among our sacred congregation, here at Holy Blossom Temple. Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing you soon.